Dave and Liz Singleton have lived in the north of England all their lives, but their hearts are over the sea in Skye. On this Scottish island, they found one of the most spectacular sights in Britain and commissioned a house with the best views in the country.
We've been coming to Skye for 15 years. Skye is not a place, it's an intoxication.
Inspired by a new house in Portugal overlooking the Atlantic, Dave and Liz have asked architect Mary Arnold Forster to give them a house which faces the summer sun but turns its back on the winter weather. And that is easier said than done. Every so often, you come across a building plot that takes your breath away. And this is one of them. Perched, yes perched, on the southern tip of Skye, this is a building plot which literally faces down the map of the British Isles. In the middle of the summer, it's the first to greet the dawn. And you have only to stand here for a few minutes to see how it captured the imagination of regular visitors Dave and Liz Singleton. How did you come across this absolutely breathtaking site?
Well, we've been coming to Skye for 15 years, and for the last 5 or 6 years we've been looking for a site. And our son rang us from London, actually, he found it on the internet. We travelled up specially to see this site and one or two others, and it took us, 30 seconds?
Less than 30
Less than 30 seconds to decide.
Instantly.
Yeah, we're just amazed that there's a site like this with outline planning permission. It was
we couldn't
absolutely
believe,
fantastic.
yeah.
But you didn't want to take up that planning permission, you wanted to do something more specific.
Oh yeah, of course. Unfortunately, in parts of Scotland, you find a lot of kit houses, and they just, for us, they don't fit the environment.
No, a kit house on this site would be a tragedy.
On this particular site,
it would be an absolute tragedy. In fact, when we first came here, it seemed a pity to build on it, and so we've been very aware of being sympathetic to the landscape.
Dave and Liz commissioned the architect Mary Arnold Forster to draw up plans for their new house. She lives and works in Skye and designs houses for clients all over the Western Isles. Her best advert is her own house, built 2 years ago in the shadow of the Cuillin Hills. A clever take on the traditional Scottish barn, which opens up to the Scottish summer but can be closed down against the winter storms which batter this part of the coast. She's expert at dealing with the big skies which drew Dave and Liz here in the first place.
So I'm impressed with the design that Mary's come up with. It's modern and exciting, I feel. It's all on paper, I know, at the moment. And also the fact that all the various views have been incorporated. They're very different views as well. Very long views, with the mainland mountains, you've got the peninsula, the ocean, an egg.
Because the beauty of Skye is the light. It's just fantastic light, and not to lose it. And so glass became important. We're not afraid of modern materials, although the house is going to be enlarged. But to make the most of the light. And obviously the view here, we have 360 here, and to make the most of it,
Yeah.
Skye is not a place, it's an intoxication. And I think you're here on a December morning, and you know what we mean.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic.
It is stunning.
Yeah.
Mary's giving Dave and Liz a 3-bedroomed, single-storey house, carefully positioned on this spectacular site. It will have a long kitchen diner lounge to take advantage of the views to the south, with a terrace to make the most of the sun. There'll be a large utility room and a room for the 3 Labradors, which are such a part of their life. The bedrooms will be tucked in at the back, including a master bedroom, which will have a bathroom with a shower open to the western views, and of course to anyone who happens to be looking in. This is essentially a timber box, but one so cleverly designed by Mary that only she can explain all the tricks she used when she brought it from her drawing board to the site.
I wanted views for the main living space all the way along. I didn't want to put any of the bedrooms on the front of the house, so we tucked them all at the back. So we have a morning terrace off the kitchen. We have a day terrace off the main elevation to the front, and then we have an evening terrace looking this way. So we're absolutely about the site and about the passage of the sun and about the clients. Then we've taken two very simple forms which have a proportion based on traditional architecture and forms, but it's been so abstracted, and these are the clients who could go with that. They could understand that and let us do that. So these are very small building in a way. It's tucked very low, and yet it's very powerful. When we did the setting out, the builder I pulled the building down every time with the building. So
He started and you pulled it away?
No, I made him take more earth out, you see, so that I could settle the building properly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it fits into the landscape.
So tucking it right in. So that you're not...
That was our main concern, wasn't it? Initially, when we realised that we'd have to build at this level.
Yeah. The intent eventually is the house disappears,
merges
and the landscape,
Yeah.
recovers.
If only all clients were as sensitive to the landscape. Work started on this building 8 weeks ago. If it looks like a shoebox built out of chipboard, that's because it is, but only for the moment. When the windows are delivered and fitted, everything will change. In the meantime, denied access to the views, Dave and Liz will have to be content with seeing the internal layout emerging. So this is an exciting time for you. I mean, you've seen the foundations, and now the space is coming into 3 dimensions.
Yes, it's absolutely, it's incredible. I wasn't expecting... last time we came, it was foundation level, and I thought as soon as we started to go 3D, everything would close in. And actually, it hasn't closed in as much as I was expecting.
That's
visually.
Because the entranceway is actually it's quite big.
I've
got to
big.
say, I mean, for a building of this size, you've devoted a lot of space to entranceway, kind of hallway, and then that's a utility space.
Which is a rather large utility space.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, or the main reason for that, apart from the fact that we have a lot of facilities in there, we have 3 large Labradors.
3? That's going to be
3
quite
Labradors.
a handful.
We're strict where the Labradors go, but they'll be sleeping in the utility.
Yeah.
As you will see when they're around,
There's quite a lot of chaos.
Yes, there is, yes.
I do like the fact that as you walk in, you've got this sort of strip of roof light,
Yes.
which takes you all the way down this service court.
Yes,
Which is going to make the central area of the house feel much, much lighter than if they weren't there, obviously.
Much lighter. And one of the things, of course, obviously we need light, but we also need ventilation in the utility because the dogs will be sleeping.
Right,
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And through here is...
Through here we've got this is the main bedroom, which again we will have great views here.
So that's a solid plate glass window.
Yes.
Great big window.
Yes.
And another little one there.
That's correct. And then we're going to have a walking out area here as well.
It's a little terrace.
A little terrace area.
So that's going to be incredible, and it's quite exciting because you can't see it. They've boarded it up at the moment.
Hopefully, so that should be good. And then through here we've got the shower room. Again, we're going to have glass, so we will be able to have a shower and look at the views at the same time.
And this is going to be a bathroom.
Yes.
To end all bathrooms, surely.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Dave and Liz have taken on a building firm based in the Isle of Lewis. They've even rented a house nearby to put up the workmen when they're on site. The team works 10 days on and 7 days off. When the builders are on their rest days, there's an opportunity to savour the site in all its stillness. The very quality that first attracted the Singletons to the Isle of Skye 15 years ago. It's the middle of December. It's -3 degrees. But it's a beautiful day. Building a house in the Highlands is a real challenge. At this time of the year, it doesn't get light until around 9, and it gets dark by 3. The ground is frozen solid. That's if you can find it under the snow. You get a lot of weather here, which means you can't guarantee you'll be able to stick to a building schedule. So completion dates go back and costs go up. Coming up, from one part of the Atlantic to another, I'm taking Dave and Liz to Portugal to see a home by one of the world's leading architects, owned by a man who lives and breathes design. On the southern tip of the Isle of Skye, Dave and Liz Singleton are building a house with views which most of us can only dream of. They found the site on the internet and they knew they had to have it.
We travelled up specially to see this site, and it took us, 30 seconds?
Less than 30
Less than 30 seconds to decide.
Instantly.
Having decided to buy, Dave and Liz took on architect Mary Arnold Forster, who's designed them a house which takes advantage of those views. The new year sees the Scottish weather being unkind to the builders, but they're used to it. The important thing is to make this building wind and watertight as quickly as possible. That will allow the soft trades to get on with the interior. They promised a completion date of June, but in Scotland, everything depends on nature. Dave and Liz cannot be on site every day. The best they can manage is monthly visits. Although they keep in touch with progress through emailed photographs, but it's a poor substitute for being there. So they've come to rely on Mary, not only to keep them up to date, but also to keep the pressure on the builders. Mary loves wood. 2 years ago, she completed her own home on Skye, and her design philosophy is all about the traditional forms of Scottish barns, adapted to provide 21st century living. Mary's a disciple of Brian Mackay Lyons, the renowned Canadian architect whose modern designs can be seen throughout Nova Scotia. Though Mary's taken great care to settle Dave and Liz's house into the hillside on Skye, I can't help thinking that, in the absence of planners breathing down her neck, she'd follow the Mackay Lyons example of building on the very top of the hill.
Wright said you never take the top of the hill to build on it. You always have to leave a clearing at the top. I think you destroy a hill when you build halfway up the hill. You destroy the face of the hill. Now, when we came, you could see the house appeared to be sinking into the ground behind the hill. That's what happens when they're right on top of the hill. They look like they're behind the hill. So I would say, in order to preserve the hill, you must build on top of it.
But Brian doesn't have to deal with Britain's planning laws. Dave and Liz chose Mary because they recognised her ability to combine the best of the old and the new, and to respect the landscape, which they've come to know and love.
What people like about traditional architecture is the way it settles into the landscape, and it settles comfortably as if it's always been there. And if you're trying to do that with modern architecture, you have to pull it down, and the builders will tend to raise it for me.
So pull it down so that the building doesn't impact onto the landscape.
Yeah.
But if you were to stand away from the building,
Yeah.
you can see all the ridge lines of the hills above it. Are you trying to keep the building beneath those ridge lines?
And I'm not arguing with the planners on that. We let the landscape hold the buildings properly. In the way that a traditional cottage sits well in the landscape, I want to replicate that, even though I'm doing clearly pretty modern architecture.
Was that an intention of the kind of vernacular local architecture to hide it? Or was that a practical issue of trying to keep it sheltered?
Yeah, it's sheltered from the wind. I mean, that's a basic problem here, is that we have some serious winds.
While Mary may be turning to the new world for her inspiration, Dave and Liz are looking to the old world. They're mad about the Porto School in northern Portugal, which has produced a long list of internationally renowned designers. Portugal has a rich architectural heritage from the 18th and 19th centuries, but it's also produced some world-class modern architects. Like Alvaro Siza, whose work has made him something of a national hero in Portugal. Luckily, one of Siza's recent houses, overlooking the ocean at Sintra, northwest of Lisbon, belongs to Dave and Liz's friend Carlos Alamone. The word on the street is that Siza chooses you and not the other way around. So the house is all the more highly prized by its owner. Dave and Liz have been here before, but I've brought them back to see what tips they might get for their own project. And Mary Arnold Forster has come too, to delight in the work of a master architect.
Álvaro Siza is a very easygoing person. It's an outstanding person.
Mm.
So, in a way, you are in front of a very well-awarded architect, but he's a very easygoing person. And the first, we came to a discussion. I tell him it's a nice plot, but before he committed to say yes, he wanted to see the plot. Came down to Lisbon. We came here to this place. This was all trees. You couldn't see anything.
Totally overgrown.
So we had an elevator platform, which gave him a chance to see the plot, and he found it absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So he said, I make you the project.
This is architecture at another level, with all the smoothness and sophistication that you might expect from someone at the top of his profession. Of course, it's much bigger than Dave and Liz's house on Skye, but there's a lot to see here that's directly relevant to their project. I think this is a really interesting house to bring you to, because I know that you're both fascinated by detailing and precision.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this place?
Yeah, the attention to details are phenomenal here.
Yeah,
The clean-cut lines and the way the light and the cast
I think
shadows.
it constantly offers you surprises, though, in terms of they may be straight lines, but there's so many different angles. You know, you look at this doorway, and then you just look down the corridor here. There's 1, 2, 3, and
This doorway is lovely. I mean, the way that it hinges off centre, hit there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a wonderful surprise.
and it just gives you surprises wherever you go, and reveals, because the way the light comes through in this area. Obviously, when you've got over 4 meters of space, you know,
That
in terms of height, it helps.
Okay, but I've got a question for you. I mean, this detailing is wonderful, and it's awe-inspiring. You walk in and it takes your breath away. But it's a bit like living in an art gallery. I mean, there's a sort of pristineness to this detailing that I think would just maybe find confining.
I suppose people might think this is an intimidating space, but essentially it's the spine of the house. It connects the bedrooms to the living areas, and the living areas are very, very comfortable.
I think it's superb. I mean, just look at this here.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's not cold. It's not an art gallery. It's just a brilliant piece of art in itself.
And the way the architect uses the roof light here, and the shadows it creates, and this piece of plasterwork here, the angles are just, the details, frightening.
Are you enjoying that? When you say frightening, are you enjoying it? It's exciting,
Yeah, it's
stimulating.
exciting. I intend to put pressure on the architect as well.
Oh dear. That's a side effect of this visit which I hadn't anticipated. What does Mary Arnold Forster think about that?
It is interesting. This is different daylight to what we deal with in Skye, and it's a continuing concern. But he's a master at manipulating that daylight. You can tell that he does art galleries and public buildings as well, because that control of it is rather beautifully done.
My only worry is that this has set a very difficult precedent for you and Dave and Liz. You know, your building has to live up to the quality of this. That's something to live under, isn't it?
Absolutely. For a kind of very ordinary jobbing architect, it is very stressful. But they are fantastically wonderful clients, actually, because for years people have said, just draw up this, here's what I want. But they have stood back and come in on the project and come back and forth, and that's been fantastic to work with clients who stand back and say, let's see what you can come up with in response to our brief and our landscape. And that is really flattering.
I think Mary's underselling herself. She's well capable of delivering the house Dave and Liz dream of on Skye. She shares Alvaro Caesar's love of wood, and she appreciates the importance of siting. For the Singletons, this inspirational trip to Portugal has reminded them that they are right to strive for the highest standards in architecture. In the midst of all your building work and all the details and the chaos of it all, hasn't it been fantastic to come down here and see this incredible house?
Absolutely fabulous. It's totally stunning. It's the interior, exterior, the architecture is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it reinforces a lot of what we want to do on Skye. Obviously the size is different, but you know, the principles behind it. I just think it's a fantastic house. I think it's an inspirational house. Having talked to Carlos, you know, his project took far longer. You know, to find permissions and so on and so forth. So you do need a lot of patience when you do decide to build a house. But I think when you get towards the end of it, you begin to see that it's all worthwhile.
I think clearly bringing you here has been an inspiration.
Definitely.
I think it's been worthwhile.
Definitely.
Oh, yes.
Give you a little bit of a break.
And hopefully when you see our finished product.
I should be saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's been superb coming here.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
So have I. To see a house by Alvaro Siza at first hand, with the help of the man who commissioned it, has been a great treat. For many, a house like this would be all about the views outside. But I think Siza is better than that. It's more thoughtful, more considered. And I like the way that he's created a very delicate balance between the inside and the outside. Inside, we've got good spaces to live in, walls for artwork, walls for books, places to put the sofa against. And then he's framed the wonderful views with very carefully considered doors and windows. It's absolutely lovely. Coming up, the completion date goes out the window, but the windows themselves arrive at last. On the Scottish island of Skye, Dave and Liz Singleton are having a house built for them, their family and their 3 Labradors. Architect Mary Arnold Forster has designed a building for them which will almost merge into the landscape.
What people like about traditional architecture is the way it settles into the landscape, and it settles comfortably as if it's always been there.
The building has been underway for 8 months, but the harsh Scottish winter has set the completion date back by 3 months. But by late spring, the weather is improving and work on site picks up again. The first fix is now underway and the windows have been ordered. Underfloor heating is being laid in a cement screed, and Dave and Liz are back on site to see how it's changed since their last visit.
Now I'm really impressed, and now I can visualise and see the results to date. It's fantastic. I'm very impressed with the proportions as well. I think going from the lounge backwards, coming through to the dining area and the kitchen. At the moment, they look perfect. The proportions look spot on. So I'm pleased.
Yeah. When you see another piece go on, it's fantastic. But I think the real reveal will be when the windows go in.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it's boarded up, because obviously you can imagine on the edge of this cliff it gets very windy. But when the windows do go in, I think the house will truly be revealed.
Building a house on the mainland of Britain is one thing. Building it on a remote Scottish island is quite another. All the materials have to be trucked up or shipped across, and planning who does what, when, is more critical than elsewhere. There's something else. Now that she can see what's going where, Liz is worried that one of the guest bedrooms at the back of the house will be too dark. They do have minimal views, but I've got to say, I can imagine just lying in bed, looking out the window here.
Yes.
And that oak tree up on the hill, on the crest of the hill, is beautiful, and particularly today, when you see the blue sky behind it and the oak tree. I mean, it's just sort of frames it. It's like a living picture out there, isn't it?
I mean, it's all comparative,
Yeah.
minimal comparative to the front of the house. But these rooms are a reasonable size.
Yeah.
We will be having sometimes a few people staying, so I'm sure it'll be adequate.
Dave is more concerned about the larch, which has just arrived on site, and in which the house will be clad. Architects always talk about an honesty of materials and construction. If a building is made out of blockwork, so the thinking goes, well, you shouldn't attempt to disguise it by sticking timber cladding all over the outside. Not that that's the case here, because Mary Arnold Forster has used a timber frame throughout, so the external cladding, made out of timber, is an integral part of the finished design. Not that Dave and Liz have had many types of local timber to choose from.
The choice of wood, we had a choice between two types of larch, one Siberian and one native to Scotland. Obviously our preference would have been to go native to Scotland, so we had two examples made up of panels, and when we saw the two panels it was pretty obvious that the Siberian larch, because of its grain being so tight, gives a very neat edge to this very narrow batten, and the grain is very tight, so it's less likely to warp, and there's fewer knots, and it just looked a lot better. So we asked the guy at the woodyard, was it in stock? It was in stock, so it's still only come as far as Inverness as far as we're concerned.
I think it's very important because the house really, the wood is the main feature in the exterior. Bearing in mind that we're going to have the wood on the sides and the roof is also going to be clad in the wood. We wanted as near a perfect finish as we could get, really, and we feel that this wood is a jolly good start. The quality and the grain will look perfect. It is hard work, but I think it will be worthwhile.
Every time they come on site, about once a month, Dave and Liz have to make a mental leap. They're forcing themselves to see not a wooden box, but a house with huge windows, which will take in the fabulous views. Until then, it's a matter of dealing with the details, smart aluminium downpipes and the clever system of cladding designed by Mary Arnold Forster, which is being overseen by the foreman, Bobby Morrison.
Is this the actual framework then for the cladding to go on?
That's just a subframe.
Right.
Just now, your main kit is behind there, your timber frame.
Okay.
Then this is framed out for these brackets, which are bolted onto
Okay.
the initial frame. Then we sheath it with OSB. On top of that, we'll be putting a breathing membrane, a black breathing membrane with 2x2s extending vertical, going all the way up to finished roof height. And then we'll be cladding it with this Siberian larch.
So it's a lot of layers, but in the end, what it does, it cleans up, gives a very sharp building, and so all the gutters and the downspouts will all be hidden.
Yeah, everything's be hidden. It'll be taken down just to about 6 inches above finished ground level, and extended all the way up, and then across horizontally onto the roof.
The cladding system is just one of the design tricks the architect is using to make the building settle into the landscape. The larch will turn silver within a few years, possibly quicker in the harsh climate of Scotland. It's summer. What passes for summer up here? Actually, for a few weeks, Scotland has much better weather than the rest of Britain. And the windows arrive. Suddenly, this wooden box is transformed into a recognisable home. Mary Arnold Forster has set their window specification very high. She knows from personal experience how frightening it can be to live through a severe Scottish storm. This house will catch the worst of the weather from the western approaches, so she's come on site not only to check that the windows are exactly the ones she's ordered, but also to see that they're installed and sealed correctly.
These windows are amazing. They you can vent like this, and it's solid and it doesn't move in the wind. And then you can do this and open it forward properly. That's serious. And then you can see who's arriving. This window is placed to make sure that you knew exactly who's coming. That's all it is.
After 9 months of being shrouded in shuttering, Dave and Liz's house is finally seeing the light.
They're really office spec windows.
The windows are installed in just 5 days, and Mary is pleased with the result.
Where these seals are particularly good, I'm hoping that absolutely no drafts whatsoever. This can be a very windy site, and then the ease with which they open is just really terrific. It's a clever little lock here. Have I got that one? Oh, that's very satisfying when it locks into place.
Ordering these windows has been something of a gamble for Mary, or perhaps we should call it a calculated risk. She hasn't dealt with this manufacturer before, and there couldn't be a greater test for the product than this site.
The windows have all gone in. Are they going to finish today?
They're just about finished now.
Okay.
All the frames went in the other day apart from this one here, which they left out to get all the glass in.
Right.
And they've just put in all the glass in. They're just adjusting all the doors.
And if the clients need a lesson in these doors, you'll be able to give it to them.
I'm sure. If not, they're going to go on the internet.
Well, they look amazing. I've never done these windows before. And they're the next level up, aren't they, from what we usually do? They're pretty sleek.
They're good.
This has been a fascinating project to watch. Being so far from the main centres of civilization has brought its own problems. Shipping in all the materials, dealing with the weather, extreme weather at times, and just understanding what makes life tick in the Scottish Highlands and Islands. For them, this is the focus of their lives. For Mary Arnold Forster, it's one of many projects she has to coordinate over a huge area. That can sometimes cause tension. So, as the house emerges, how is the architect feeling?
Happy, a bit apprehensive about the programme. But I think the clients are patient enough to wait for the quality. I mean, these guys are good builders, so that's why we employ them. You can get other builders who rush things, and that's absolutely pointless because they just have to redo it. So that's okay. It is a bit behind schedule, it must be said. Still, they do have the patience for it, and it's not like they've been living in rented accommodation around the corner. But I do trust Bobby, it must be said, and that's really important.
They're working on the final section of the roof, and at last it's possible to see, even on a rainy day, the kind of views Dave and Liz will be enjoying in their new home. Mary Arnold Forster knows just how privileged she is to be working in this part of Scotland, and has developed a special technique for respecting the landscape.
It's all about the view here. The architecture is kind of secondary. The thing that makes it is the place, and I'm just lucky to get these places to work in. The less you do, the better in a way, because then the site speaks for itself.
By the autumn, Dave and Liz are expecting to move in. They've got new furniture stored all over Skye. But after the windows are installed, and just as the end appears to be in sight, this project starts to slow down. No one can really explain why. Dave and Liz, trying to keep in touch by phone and email, are starting to get frustrated. It takes another 7 months to complete the interior. It's the middle of February, almost 18 months after this project started, before they can take delivery of the furniture and start to move in. Like the weather, relationships are a bit frosty. The question is, will Dave and Liz forgive the long delay when they finally see their dream home completed? Dave and Liz Singleton are passionate about the Isle of Skye. It's a place of memories, of family holidays over the last 20 years, of spectacular scenery, and of a dream that one day they might actually live here. Now, after a year in which they've overseen the building of a home in one of the best locations Skye has to offer, I've come back to see if it's all been worth it. I love this cladding. I mean, it's intense. But are you pleased with it?
I'm ecstatic. I think it's fabulous. I'm really, really pleased. I think it just looks superb. It looks superb when you're close to, from a distance. I just think it gives a real wow factor.
Yeah, it's that distance issue as well, which is important.
Yes.
I mean, how do you think this building fits into this landscape?
I think it fits in very well. When you stood close to it, it's very sharp and angular, but once the larch begins to weather, I think it's really going to sit into the landscape. We spent a lot of time and additional money to sink it into the hill, and when you get long views of the house, you can really see how in a number of years it's actually going to fit in very well, and the locals love it.
I just love the sharp edges of these cladding. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it was critical to the building. In fact, we've got to thank the workmen who did it, because they did a tremendous job. Because if they'd have if it wasn't this sharp, the building would have
been ruined.
Yeah.
They've spent a long time, made a lot
So
of
much
effort,
time.
Yeah.
and I think they've made a fabulous job.
It's beautiful. I love that drip edge that's
I know.
produced by the chamfer timber, so the water just drips all the way down the facade, and you can see it just be a sort of incredible
The detail's incredible,
waterfall
isn't it? Though
of water coming down there.
it's
I mean,
fabulous.
really intense. I mean, you must have
Yeah.
pity those guys who
I
just
know.
said, how many strips of timber? I mean, it's really.
I don't-
It probably stretches from here to Glasgow.
I know, it's very intense, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think we were very popular, but they've done a great job, and they know it.
Incredible. I think you're going to be using this entrance much more than the front door.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, when you come inside and you get the views out.
Yeah.
I mean, every window's a picture frame, and you see forever. You see 40 miles in that direction.
Spectacular. And somehow the piers on the outside actually separate up the views, so it does seem to be quite a good separation from that direction and out that way and that way. So it does separate. You've got different views.
Yeah, this
everywhere
way
you
we're
go.
out to the Isle of Egg, down to Ardmurchan Point, and the lighthouse there, which is must be 40 miles, the Moydart and Knoydart. So we see that huge panorama.
I remember when we were in Carlos's house in Portugal, he was very clever with key pieces of furniture, and I see that you've done the same here.
Yes, we have this table here and the console table. They were made by a local craftsman, actually, Stuart. And if you look at the frame as well, that was made.
The aluminium frame.
The aluminium frame by Roger, another local craftsman.
Right. And this looks like a really solid
very
table.
Solid,
Yeah,
very
it's
solid.
90 centimetres, solid oak, and it's over 200 kilos in weight.
Really? How many people did that take to bring in?
4.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, but luckily one of the guys was exceptionally strong when I sort of withered.
It's not going to move. It's not going to move at all. I hope you got them to put it in the right place.
It's
Literally, it's going to stay.
Yeah.
It's an heirloom.
Oh, it's not going anywhere.
And of course, you've carried these ideas through to the room divide between the dining room and the kitchen.
Yes, we have. Stuart actually made this as well. He made the divider for us. We're extremely pleased. The lines follow through outside.
It really does connect the external architecture with the internal.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It took us a while to decide how we connect the kitchen area to the dining area. And the idea of the wall, in the same way that on the terrace outside of the kitchen window, we have that wall for shelter, it just carries the theme through.
Yeah. And it takes us right through into the kitchen. It's a clever device, very simple, but it's a room divide and also probably a display plinth. And basically this must be the kitchen with the best view in the whole country. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, I don't do any work, let's put it like that.
Imagine.
You just constantly
looking
at the ships, the mountains.
Yeah, let the dishes
boats.
stay dirty.
Yeah.
You could just watch the view all day.
That's what I do.
Yeah, amazing.
It's fantastic.
Part of the pleasure of making these programmes is sharing the joy of couples whose dream really has come true. Yes, Dave and Liz have been disappointed by the delays, which meant construction here went on much longer than they expected. But it's very clear to me that any frustrations they felt have been eclipsed by the thrill of moving in, by the delight of seeing their new house start to blend into its spectacular surroundings, and by knowing that they can continue their link with the Isle of Skye, not by staying in hotels as they have done for the past 20 years, but as residents in their own home. And this is, of course, the shower with the view, and that is just spectacular.
Yes, look, this is the one. Been waiting for this shower. This was focal point from the start.
How do you feel about having a shower with a great big plate glass window? I mean, there's no neighbours, but still it must feel weird or a little bit exhibitionist.
Not really. I mean, maybe the odd sheep won't be there, but if people do feel uncomfortable, they could use the other shower room.
I'm not sure if you're meaning the people having the shower or the people out there.
I must admit, we did think it would probably mist up fairly quickly, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I have no problem, and I don't think many people will.
And the bedrooms,
Yes.
you don't really need to do that much to make it a spectacular space, do you?
No, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're concerned. We want to live on Skye and to be able to look at Skye as well. And in my opinion, we've achieved that objective.
I know that this build has caused you a certain amount of frustration and certainly a bit of stress, but now that you're into this magnificent piece of architecture, is all that starting to disappear?
We found it frustrating, not so much stressful, because we knew at the end it would be what it is. Because from the drawings and from the site, you know, you just knew what it was going to turn out like. So frustrating, yes, it took a long time, but in a remote location like this, it's understandable.
And your favourite bits, Liz?
The kitchen window was something I hadn't sort of thought about in great detail, but it was mind-blowing as I saw the kitchen window, and then your eye just pans round. So I'd say walking in through the kitchen door is my favourite part.
And Dave?
It's from this side of the house looking out towards Egg, and Egg changes so much during the day. It has so many different characteristics about it. I think it's fascinating.
It feels like we've been on a real journey together. Has this been an emotional experience for you?
Yes.
At times.
Yeah, I think it's very emotional. But I'm getting emotional now looking at the view out to Egg. I think that, it is, because it has built our dream home.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely built the dream home.
And we're not going to do it again. There's no need.
This is it.
This is
you
it.
Found it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are two forces at work here: good architecture and a great site. The success of this design is in bringing those forces together, not only to realise Dave and Liz's dream, but also to create something positive in the landscape. It's that winning formula that makes this house so exciting. And when it can evoke such a strong emotional response, you realise just how powerful architecture can be.